right? But you can sort of go around the whole garden, make your holes like that, and then just pop these in, pointy end up. Just pop them in. Hey, it's Greg Otten here with MaritimeGardener.com, and today I'm planting some garlic. And I just did a garlic video last week, and I got a lot of garlic to plant. These are my own garlic, ones I've saved. Last week I planted some provided by Vessi Seeds. And these are all the hardneck music garlic or porcelain white garlic, depending on what people like to call them. I find they're just an ideal garlic for growing in this climate. Good taste, store well, easy to grow, and achieve a good size, right? A lot of these are 3 inches in diameter, right? So they're just great. And that's another good point. Like the ones I got from Vessi's were smaller, right? These are ones I bought, and these are my own saved ones. But the ones I saved were this size when I initially bought them, right? Every year you just save the biggest ones, and you eat the smaller ones, and over time they just all get bigger. But anyway, I digress. Today I'm going to plant these. I'm going to use a slightly different technique. It might be easier, depends on how you look at it, but the idea is you just get some sort of stick like this and stick it in the ground, and then drop the, you use your finger as a gauge, right? I want these about 3 inches deep, and I want them about 6 inches apart, so you just make your holes like that, and you pop them in. So let's do one here, just show you the idea, and then I'll do a super fast forward type thing of the whole garden getting done. I think I can probably do this garden in no time flat. I'm gonna do a couple of these as an example, but then I'll do the whole garden and we'll time it and we'll see how long it takes. Okay, so we got a couple of these ready to go. This is one of the Vessi's ones. Alright, so let me zoom the camera in a bit here. Alright, so I got a stick here. It's about 3 inches in diameter, about an inch or an inch and a half in diameter. What would that be in centimeters? Maybe 4 inches or 4 centimeters in diameter. And it's got a little point at the end. It's just a stick, right? And I got all my garlic. So I think the advantage of this method is that normally when I plant my garlic, I sort of position them all and then plant them. And I think with this method, you can basically do all that work, with this stick. Right? Just give it a bit of a ream like that, so the stuff doesn't fall back in. Right? But you can sort of go around the whole garden, make your holes like that, and then just pop these in, pointy end up. Just pop them in. Then just brush the soil back over. Right? Just like that. I better mark these so I remember. Oh no, where were they? I've lost it already. I think they were right around here somewhere. So I think there's half a row here, so I'll put these to indicate that there's half a row right here. Anyway, that's pretty easy, right? So let's. I'm going to zoom the camera back out, and I'm going to do this whole garden, and let's see how fast I can get it done and see how many garlic I plant. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so those are all on the ground now, and oh, a couple haven't covered over. I mean, you don't have to be too worried about. I mean, I fill the holes in very quickly, but you don't have to worry too much about that. I mean, the wind and the rain and all that stuff will just sort of fill them back in for you. I give it a quick wave. That's all that's really needed. So now I'm just going to put a good mulch on top of here to feed the soil, keep it from oxidizing, and keep the worms happy, and regulate the moisture, and all the good things that I talk about all the time. All the good things that go along with mulching, and mulch and garlic seem to just go hand in hand. Suppress your weeds and ensure a really good sort of yield the coming year, right? And this is October, middle of October. For those that have never seen a video before, planting garlic, you plant them the same time you'd plant tulips, right? Around fall, sometime between October and I usually plant between the middle of October to the middle of November, and that's the hardneck music variety. And when they start coming up, they'll push through the ground in April, May, and you can start harvesting the garlic scapes in July usually, and start harvesting the garlic in August. So let's mulch this baby. All right, we got some seaweed here, and it's been rained on a lot. A little wetter than I would like, but well, just commit. A little more wet than I'd like, but I think it'll all work out fine. Oh my goodness, does that smell. People are always asking me about seaweed. Is it too salty? How do you harvest it? The short answer is I've done lots of videos on this. You should go have a look at them, watch them, like them, subscribe. But I guess if I'm to speak as I'm working here, no, it's really not an issue at all. I don't worry about salt. I don't worry about any of that stuff. You're not fishing this out of the sea. You're getting it from the shore, where most of the water is drained out of it. And there's not seaweed. There isn't salt in the seaweed, right? There's salt in the water that's attached to the seaweed. Most of what the weight of the seaweed is actually water that's in the seaweed. And that water, as I understand it, doesn't have any salt in it, right? It's the water on the seaweed that has the salt. And so if you get it from, what we call the high tide line, you don't have to worry about that. I never worry about it. Whatever salt's in this is not going to have any, whatever tiny bit of salt might be in the seaweed, right? It's going to be carried away by rain. Remember, salt has an affinity for rain. It has an affinity for water. So any salt that's on the seaweed, it's just going to attach itself to water when it rains, and it's just going to drain down this hill and go away. So I'm not really worried about it. Now in previous years, I've mulched garlic just with seaweed. And what I have found is that seaweed is not a very good insulator. The soil really freezes up when you cover it. At least that's what I've found. For where I am here, with the amount of sort of rain and moisture we get over the course of the winter. But the garden beds that are mulched just with seaweed seem to take longer to thaw out than the ones that are mulched with things like hay, right? Isn't quite good enough. Here I got a pile of grass clippings over there I'm going to go grab. Now a lot of people are going to ask me, does how thick do you put the mulch on, and so on and so forth. It really depends on what kind of mulch it is and how dense it is. So a hay like this, you can put that 6 inches to a foot high because it's loose. Really dense clumps of like lawn mowed lawn, I'd go maybe 3 inches, not much more. It's just denser. Leaves, I'd do 3 inches. And if they're really large leaves, I'd chew them up with a lawnmower before putting them down. Garlic's pretty good because it's a spear. It's pretty good at finding its way through stuff. So you just have to use your judgment. Just sort of think like, can what I'm growing find its way through this stuff? You know, if it's very porous, then and it's got a lot of air pockets, then it's a good insulator, but also you know, the plant should have no problem finding its way through. And people are going to ask me, do these have weed seeds in them? Yeah, there's weed seeds everywhere here. So just get over it. Be my suggestion. There's weed seeds everywhere here, but you know, for some reason I've got a good reason for it, but for the most part they really don't present themselves as a problem. Most of the weed seeds that are in grasses can't germinate and find their way through 3 inches of mulch. At least that's what I found. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them. So we don't sweat it, right? What I found in doing this is, this is your fertilizer, right? This is what's, well, that is really dense. It might be a bit too dense. That's more dense than I would like. I'm going to put that aside. That's almost like, I don't know what you call it, but almost like mud. You got to use your judgment, right? Geez, I hope I'm not standing on something here doing the splits. Anyway, that's good. Alright, so that's, you know, about 50 garlic. I find these beds, if you space them out 6 inches apart, give or take. I didn't actually count this one, but I'm just guessing because the adjacent bed was garlic as well. And I got about 50 garlic in that one. So that's another 50 garlic. One bed done. I don't have to do anything here for the rest of this year or all next year. Just leave this alone. Sometimes I'll pop things in between the garlic to grow. Like if this was inside my garden enclosure, I might transplant a couple kale in with the garlic or something like that, right? Because garlic's a spear, so there's certain things you can grow once the garlic's high, because you don't want your leafy vegetable sort of blocking the sun. But the garlic grows so early, right? But they don't cast any shade. So you can stick things in with the garlic and they seem to get along pretty well for the most part. And some people, this is for the regular subscribers, might realize that I grew onions here last year in this particular bed. So it's not a good idea to follow onions with garlic, right? Because they're basically the same thing for all intents and purposes. The kinds of things that might bother onions, kinds of pests that go with onions, can also create problems for your garlic. So it's not good that I've planted garlic after planting onions in the same bed. Also they kind of have similar requirements in terms of nutrients. But there's two reasons I'm doing this. Number one, I want to have, in this exterior garden here, I want to have 2 garlic beds growing side by side. And just for crop rotation purposes, that way I can just leapfrog, right? So the next year the 2 beds above these will be garlic, and the next year I'll move it one over. So I'm keeping them together so it's easy for me to keep organized in my mind. I don't want one here and one there. 2 beds, garlic. Next year the adjacent beds, or next fall, the 2 adjacent beds up this hill will be garlic beds. And the following year, the garlic to the left of me, the 2 beds to the left of me will be garlic beds. So I can just keep going it that way. So that's the main reason. It's just organizational. It's just me being a bit obsessive compulsive or whatever. But I just sort of want it organized a certain way, and I have to follow onions with garlic to get it there, and I'm not going to do it again, right? So it's a one-off. I think I can get away with it. I don't think it'd be a big problem. Another reason I think I can probably get away with it is because the garlic's planted deeper than the onions, right? I don't till this up. So the onions were on top, you pretty much practically just pop them on top of the soil, right? Whereas the garlic are going to be 3 inches down. So there's a lot of stuff down there that the onions really couldn't get to. So I think the garlic are going to do just fine. I think there's plenty of, allium, allium friendly nutrients in the soil. I think there's plenty enough left for these garlic, so I don't think it's going to be a real problem. So, and also because these gardens are so productive, these hugelkultur beds, I just got an incredible faith in them because they seem to work so well. I plan to like convert, every year I convert a couple more of my beds into hugelkultur beds. It's good exercise. It's a good thing to do. If the soil is workable in March, sometimes it is, not always, but or late in the fall if I've got nothing to do. It's just a good thing to do, and it seems to really charge your garden up and make it very easy to deal with. I mean, it's a Sunday here. I've been outside for about an hour and a half, and I've planted 50 garlic, and I've gotten 2 beds ready for next year. And filmed 2 videos, right? I gotta edit and stuff like that, but anyway, I've gotten a lot done in a very short amount of time. That's the beauty of this, of no-till gardening, and the great thing about hugelkultur beds. And the fact that you don't have to really buy anything, you're just using what's around, just rotten trees and rubbish and things people throw away at the side of the road, bags of leaves and stuff like that. Lawn clippings and whatever. And the result is like really fertile, productive soil and a low maintenance garden and great yields. So I don't see the downside. And you get a little exercise and some good food. So I hope you found that interesting, and if you did, please like, share, subscribe, and check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. I try to have a new episode every other Saturday. I share, whenever I put a new one up. If you haven't joined my Facebook group, when I have a new podcast, I indicate that on my Facebook page so everybody knows. Otherwise, you can just, you can check my website all the time, maritimegardening.com, but it might be easier to just follow me on Facebook if you have a Facebook account, and that way you'll get the indication. Anyway, hope you found that useful. Until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.